Prologue. The court must also consider the seriousness of the offense, and I think 40 years, the statutory minimum by my calculation, reflects that seriousness. You're now 24 years of age. Even with good time, you'll be into your 60s when and if you are released. Guided by the statute that says I must impose a sentence sufficient, and I think in this context, if a sentence of 40 years is not sufficient to comport with the statute, I'm not sure what is. So that's the sentence I intend to impose. That's precisely what he said. Those were his exact words. A federal district judge who, with the swing of his gavel, made it final on a cold March 2003 afternoon in Rochester, New York. All my dreams, desires, and hopes had been stamped out. 40 years in the Federal Bureau of Prisons for drug dealing, low-level drug dealing. I'm sure I'm not the only person who thought only killers and rapists received those types of sentences. That day, I found out I was wrong. I am being led from the courtroom. I look back to see my mother crying. I read her lips. I love you, Chad. I taste the salt from the first teardrop running down my face. I feel the clamps of the cold metal handcuffs bite my skin. My mother disappears. I wonder to myself if that will be the last time I ever see her. Chapter 1. Things can be really deviant in this world. I am transported into a limbo realm. Chained up from head to toe, I am forced to withstand being flung through the atmosphere with other redundant-looking creatures of all nationalities. We're prisoners now. Although we are human beings, we are no longer part of civilized society, no longer part of that equation. My destination is some concrete jungle, USP Big Sandy. I've heard many rumors about how foul and dangerous this place is. Many say that it is the worst prison in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Beatings, stabbings, and death occur there on a regular basis. I guess the rumors I heard when I was younger, that federal prison is camp-fed, were wrong. Now that I know what I know, oh, how I wish they'd been true. The knock on the cell door did not wake me, but it scared me. Marks, pack up. You're leaving in half an hour. The inevitable is here. I am leaving this private prison holding center. I've been waiting for this moment for months. I'm heading to the real big house. I do not want to answer the correctional officer, so I keep my head on the pillow. Marks, you up? I got you, man. I got you. I'm up. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Be ready. I drag myself from beneath the thin gray-white sheets. The blanket must have fallen to the floor on the restless night. I kick the blanket to the side and wipe the crust from the corners of my eyes. The cold water I splash on my face wakes me. The light comes on, and the other residents of this cell, the mice, scuttle for cover. I stare into the mirror at the face that always looks back at me. I watch tears, loneliness. I watch fear and desperation roll slowly down my face. My emotions are at a picnic. My face is the venue. I have finally come face to face with reality. I am on my way to a real prison, to begin serving my very real prison sentence. Cold water on my face again. I mouth the words. You're going to be all right no matter what. My reflection does no more than stare back. Before long, I am led out to the R&D department, like a package being trussed for shipping. The only difference is my packaging is not cardboard, rather shackles, handcuffs, and chains. After enduring some lengthy mental and physical torture in what is called the U.S. Marshals Transportation Service, I am taken from the private prison in Youngstown, Ohio, and thrown into a medieval place called USP Atlanta. The prison is located in the Atlanta, Georgia inner city. Many of the men I am now forced to coexist with in here seem to be creatures of violence, angry men who want to share their hatred with everyone they meet. I must go through this transportation process in order to get to my final destination, that far-off concrete jungle in the bluegrass state, Big Sandy. The real big house. Inez, Kentucky, here I come. I cannot wait for this trip to be over with, I think to myself. But perhaps I am safer here, I mumble softly. No one else can hear me. The feelings engulf me, and my desperate eyes scan the battle-scarred faces of the other men. So many thrive on creating misery for others, misery on a scale that would make purgatory jealous. My mind drifts again. I am wondering why they thrive on suffering, on wreaking it on others. I am among prisoners, bottled up violence ready to unleash on those around them. I find myself in a gauntlet of disgrace and terror. I am dazed. I am crammed into a 9x9 shithole. I am surrounded by 6 slabs of non-penetratable solid matter. USP Atlanta is a ghettoized concrete jungle where a normal person cannot distinguish guard from inmate, except by the clothing they wear. This Atlanta prison is the home of the infamous November 1987 Cuban riots. The riots resulted in a large part of the prison being burnt to the ground. Those acts of rebellion and rioting cost millions of taxpayer dollars. The riot lasted 11 days, during which time inmates took over 100 hostages. After the smoke cleared and the riot was extinguished, all the Cuban inmates were transported to Leavenworth Penitentiary in Kansas. Once in Kansas, the Cubans were locked in cells for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was not Dorothy's kind of Kansas. This Kansas left many men wondering why they ever fled Fidel Castro's Cuba and his evil regime. No place like home no longer sounded so bad, but tapping shoes and a few words would not take away their newfound anguish. USP Atlanta now houses inmates in a general population section of the prison. Another portion of the prison is used as a transportation hub. This is where I am placed. This is where prisoners like me wait to be transported to misery and pain. They send us to that unflattering part of life by plane or bus. Atlanta, here I am. There's no Magic City strip club. There are no women shaking their asses. That's in the distance. Right now, right here is simple concrete, steel, and violence, I suppose, for the next 40 years, if I make it that long. The correctional officer leads me to my temporary cell. Another person is already inside. He looks more like a homeless man than a convict. I am forced to share this little area of misery with another dysfunctional man. I'm supposed to call this man my cellmate, or cellie. The two of us are crammed into this shithole. It smells like hell and is riddled with filth and graffiti. As I scan the walls, I read aloud, "Fuck the feds," and "God save me" are scribbled next to other assorted vulgarity. Hell of a contrast, I think. A small smile creeps in like a looming ghost. 2 different points of view from 2 different people. Perhaps the same person authored both. Sad, confused, angry, and desolate. I wish God or Jesus Christ would save me too. My cellmate engages me in conversation. I find myself wondering if there is such a thing as death by bad breath. I have to cover my nose and mouth with a rag that some call a shirt. My cellie talks to me through the gap in his mouth where his teeth once were before they fell victim to methamphetamine. There is no escaping the putrid stench that spills from his mouth with every word he utters. I think to myself that he must have eaten a dirty diaper for breakfast. That thought makes me chuckle momentarily, but the levity fades quickly. I smile to keep from crying. The conversation consists of him telling me that he is being transferred from USP Atwater in California because of a heroin debt to a Mexican gang that he could not pay. Rather than staying in Atwater, where he knew he would be stabbed or beaten to death for his failure to pay his bills, he checked into what is called protective custody. Convicts commonly refer to this as PC, or Punk City. Atwater is known for its violence and anger. Just a year before my cellmate's voluntary transfer from the prison, a correctional officer was stabbed to death by 2 inmates. Maximum security prisons within the Federal Bureau of Prisons are places where neither staff nor inmates want to be. Sometimes people have to do things they do not want to do to feed their families. Sometimes people are packaged and shipped off to these prisons with no basis to object. My time has come. I find myself thanking God for saving me from this cellmate of mine. 3 days in USP Atlanta's transfer hub is coming to an end. I think of the words etched into the wall, "God save me." I know my small prayer to get out of my concrete bunker with diaper breath John or Mike or whatever his name was had been answered. I thank God that he is not on the same trip as me. 3 days with him was almost unbearable. It was 2:00 a.m. when I heard the knock on the door. I was taken to another cell filled with about 60 other screaming, excited convicts. They are all like me, dressed in rags, waiting to be packaged and then transferred to our new homes. Home sweet home. Convicted murderers mixed in with white-collar criminals. Men with 4-year sentences in cages with those who have life sentences. Lions with zebras. Who cares? Just another day in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Around 5 in the morning we are separated, ushered into separate cells that resemble horse or cattle barns. Once in the stalls, we are strip searched. Our old rags are exchanged for paper fabric jumpsuits and foam smiley shoes. What better way to tell a prisoner that he's fucked than giving him foam shoes with a big smiley face on the front and have him walk across rocks? Maybe USP Big Sandy is not so bad after all. Next is the packaging process. Shackles are put on and cannot be put on over socks. The cold metal bites into your skin and pinches your Achilles tendon. Each step is almost unbearable pain. I move to the next officer where my hands are cuffed in front of me. A menacing black box slides over my cuffs. Then a waist chain is wrapped around me that the handcuffs are fastened to. The black box has cut off my circulation. I notice only a few men with black boxes on their cuffs. The pain coupled with this observation prompts me to ask the officer why I have a black box. "Officer, what's up with the black box? This shit's too tight." The officer snarls something unintelligible in his southern drawl. Tobacco juice spills over his brown-stained lower lip. "Why did you put this black box on me? The shit's too tight, man," I say as respectfully as I can under the circumstances. "Shut the fuck up and get on the bus, you dumb son of a bitch." He leaves out the "of" as he degrades me. I smile sarcastically. I know deep inside that it is simply my circumstances that allows this officer to talk to me like this. In another life, if he ever talked to me like that, it would be the last time he did. "You thinking something funny, son?" "Not at all. Your house, your rules," I reply. "Good. Follow them and get on the bus, you dumb son of a bitch." I find my seat. I ask myself if I can handle this 10-hour torture ride through the hills and the mountains. As the bus pulls out of the prison, the sun rises over this dark place. The small hills turn pink. Birds welcome the morning with sweet songs of happiness. The beautiful scenery outside the bus window is contaminated by my circumstances. The beautiful red hills of Georgia that Dr. King spoke about look like shitholes from the dirty prison bus windows. Slipping into an alternative mental state is the only place I might find some much-needed relief. Perhaps death would be more inviting. Maybe death is waiting for me at United States Penitentiary Big Sandy. Who knows? I must transform myself. I must become a beast in order to survive what awaits in this federal prison system. I am an alpha male, and I take this situation as a true challenge to the total mental breakdown. I imagine this whole thing will be a piece of cake. That thought is temporary. 2 hours into this trip, and I realize how truly wrong I am. Dragging myself from this non-physical realm into a realm that seems like anything is possible is not easy. My vision must be clear and not clouded by the non-truths that always seem to be bombarding the mind. Sitting in my seat, I begin to wonder how much pressure I can humanly take before it destroys the one thing that keeps my mind in check. Up ahead is the doom that everyone dreads, wishing that it were not part of their lives. Mexicans are yelling profanity in Spanish and broken English, another notch in the structure of my distorted mental being. My mental defenses kick in, and I find myself imagining butterflies, good times, fields of dreams. A naked woman before me, Monica Mayhem or some name like that. Porn star or not, for this brief moment, she is all mine, mine alone. My mind pulls her close to me, and as our lips get ready to meet, my forefinger on her chin, my thoughts are interrupted. Miss Mayhem disappears like a Chris Angel act. "Fuck," I scream inside. I wish I could have her back. "Hey, amigo, what's happening?" A toothless Mexican in his 50s stares at me with a broken grin. "I'm good, my man," I respond with anger in my voice, so he gets that I'm not really looking for conversation. I drag myself forward towards a destiny that no man should have to endure in 20 lifetimes, let alone one. For me, and the rest of us on this bus, we have no choice. Although some of us may have chosen the life we now have, some of us had no choice but to play the cards we were dealt. For many, the game was over before it ever began. Onward we cruise. In time, 2 black inmates begin to taunt the black correctional officers transporting us. My instincts and earlier interactions with the out-of-shape white country-ass correctional officer tell me this cannot be good. In the back of the bus in his own cage, separated from the inmates, sits a big black officer with a shotgun locked, loaded, and ready for action. This job must have been option number 2. At about 6'5" and 300 pounds or more, the NFL was likely hope number 1. My guess is he came up short, resulting in this gig. The fat white piece of shit with the tobacco stains on his lips is driving. He's got a pistol on his side. A lieutenant stands close by. He has another firearm. Like lightning, the taunts echo off the metal core of the bus, striking its victims, causing emotional damage that can only cause anger. "Uncle Tom, let us get some music, boss. We gonna be good, sir. So you gets a good report with the white man. Yes, sir. We for sure is." One inmate yells this out in his best imitation of a southern accent. The laughs from the other inmates only increase the anger on the black lieutenant's face. Same with the big fellow with the shotgun. "Come on, boss. You finna do us like that, sir?" The southern chants slap their ears like a cymbal. Then comes the real voice. "Put the music on, house nigga." The Philadelphia accent is as clear as a new pipe drain. The bus pulls off the highway into an old abandoned McDonald's, and I have a feeling that while there will be no Happy Meals, there will be a few surprises. The 2 inmates from Philadelphia are ripped off the bus at gunpoint, the 12-gauge pointed at their heads. The shackles remain in place. The handcuffs come off, And now they meet my earlier fate. Black boxes are sunk tightly over the cuffs. The cuffs are tightened to the bones, the pain obvious on their faces. The men are shoved back on the bus. Everyone looks on in stunned silence. The lieutenant huffs up the steps of the bus with Hillbilly Jim behind him. He pulls out a stun gun. Aiming it at the closest of the two, he says, "Keep your shit up, little nigga, and I will zap your black ass. Now when you get to Sandy, have your peoples call the white man and tell him I said that, black ass nigga." The bus is engulfed in silence. We work our way back to the highway, sailing closer to our destination of horrors. After a short time, the bus is alive again. The Mexican inmates start yelling back and forth to one another. What I would do for a box of tacos right now, even from Taco Bell, the man next to me yells out, bringing phony hoots and hollers from the others. He leans in towards me. "You would hear nothing but rappers, Guido, and I don't mean the mayetes." The toothless Mexican chuckles. His chains shake on his belly. I think he recognizes I have had enough when I say, "I wish I had them to give to you." He smiles at me like a jack-o'-lantern on a Halloween night. The yelling continues for what seems like an eternity, until we see the sinister dungeon in the distance. No one seems to know what to make of this distant, intimidating, ghoulish image coming closer to us. Many have heard the same rumors I have. I am not the only person who heard the reputation of this concrete jungle. Some have simply blown the rumors off as myth. Now their bowels quiver. The truth is staring them right in the face, unsettling stomachs. Too late to be scared now, but oh how I welcome the quietness that has overcome the population of this metal shuttle. Many of the macho images have now crumbled like the great walls of Jericho. This is where my 40-year sentence will begin. It just might end here. The hands of death are rumored to be awaiting us behind these gloomy gray walls. As we pull in, the wall opens, and it feels like the air has been sucked from my lungs. This was the moment that I prayed would never be my reality. Finally, it is. The structure before us is a massive pile of slag with few windows. As the bus comes to rest, my anxiety increases full throttle. Gasoline fumes dance lightly on the tip of my nose. The officers exit the bus to disarm. We are left on the bus for over 30 minutes while the officers joke and make small talk with the Big Sandy staff. The waiting period seems like an eternity, and I fidget with the chains and cuffs, out of boredom and nervousness. A loudspeaker on the bus squawks, grabbing my attention. "When you hear your name, come up here and give the lieutenant your name and number, step off the bus, and go through those doors right there. Oh, one more thing. Enjoy your stay here at Sandy. She's a good girl. If you treat her right, she'll be good to you." Hillbilly Jim says this with a chuckle. I think he stole those last words from the Reba McEntire song, Fancy. The names are called out in alphabetical order, 2 at a time. Johnson, Marks. As luck would have it, Johnson is the Philadelphia convict who taunted the lieutenant. I fall in behind him while he rattles off his name, then his prison number. The lieutenant puts his hand on Johnson's chest and leans in, whispering loud enough for me to hear. "Now you go ahead, have your people call the white man down in D.C., snitching ass nigga." As Johnson steps off the last step, the lieutenant hollers towards the door. "They finna kill your black ass up here in these mountains." I'm staring into Hillbilly Jim's face, the man who earlier called me a son of a bitch. "Marks, 12010-055. I say this swiftly, hoping this is the last time I see him. "Oh boy, Lieutenant, they finna kill this one right here too. He got a smart mouth like that dumb son of a bitch Johnson." He smiles in my face. "Enjoy your stay, Mr. Marks, as long as it lasts." Rather than respond, I step down and off the bus. Gravel crunches under my foam smiley face shoes as I head into the doors and the truly unknown.